everybody. Our session is called Meet Salesforce Product Managers, and you'll get a lot of opportunity to ask us anything around our roadmap, our product, and anything that we can answer for you. Thanks to our sponsors. All right, so I am Neha Ahlawat. I'm a senior product manager at Salesforce. I own the areas of metadata and tooling APIs, source tracking, and I'm excited to be here.
And I'm Fidelak. I'm a senior director of product management at Salesforce. I've been with Salesforce for about 6.5 years. I've been working on our platform, product team, working on our developer experience products for all of that time. Fun fact, I was the product manager for the metadata API when I first started, and Neha was an engineer on that team. Now she's the product manager of that team, and I'm now working on some other products, which we'll be talking about today.
We just do everything. We build, we design, we are the team. Thank you. All right, so that's our agenda today. We just did our introductions. We'll quickly give a product overview, and then we'll talk a little bit about product planning and development process, so some behind the scenes of PM process at Salesforce, and then we'll open it up for Q&A and feedback. And towards the end of the session, look out for a QR code that will take you to a form that will allow you to share your opinions, your feedback directly to us.
Cool, so we're going to start with just giving a little bit of an overview of some of the products that we're responsible for to give you some context about kind of what our areas of expertise are when we get into the Q&A. This is an image that maybe you've seen if you've been to any of our sessions at Dreamforce or any webinars. We often start with this kind of visual of the overall Salesforce development ALM process. We like to talk about this as this continuous 5-step process that goes from planning through creation or building, through a test phase before you release, and then an ongoing observation phase. We have a series of products that we provide at Salesforce as part of our developer experience that facilitate this overall experience. I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of these, but the ones I want to highlight right here are DevOps Center and our CLI, which are basically these tools that help orchestrate this entire process. So while there are some tools that fit more naturally into some of these individual phases, DevOps Center provides a declarative sort of click-based interface to facilitate and orchestrate this whole process, and the CLI likewise provides a programmatic or command line interface to orchestrate this whole process. I personally, for the last 3 or so years, have been focused heavily on DevOps Center as a product. This is a product that we just launched in December. We brought it to GA, but for the past 3 years, I've been focused on bringing this basically from idea to launch to get it into your hands. DevOps Center, if you're not aware of what it is, it's a product for managing or having a modern change and release management process. We are providing an improved experience, sort of an end-to-end experience for managing the development, the change, release management, the deployment process. It is providing ultimately an alternative and a replacement for change sets. So sort of first and foremost, that's been our goal. We provide change tracking through a UI-based interface. We also have a seamless integration with version control. So a real key premise of this product is that everybody's going to be using modern technologies, including a source control repository. But never fear, we've made it really easy to adopt. If you've never used source control before, we're trying to make this really lower the barrier of entry for taking on and adopting these modern technologies. We have a click-based interface to manage the promotions and the deployments through a lifecycle pipeline. And really important is that this is intended to support teams that include both low-code and pro-code developers. So when I mentioned that CLI, that's the programmatic interface. DevOps Center is the declarative interface for managing this lifecycle. This is just another view of that lifecycle process. And what I want to highlight here is we see that same 5-step process across the top. If you kind of follow it down by columns here, what we're highlighting are some of the products that are available from Salesforce for facilitating this process. These products span sort of the entire Salesforce suite of offerings. What I want to highlight, you can go to the next slide here, is the team that I am managing here for our developer experience products. So I've been focused on DevOps Center. I'm now leading a team of what we're calling developer experience products. And I want to introduce you to these faces and names. Maybe you've seen them in the community. Maybe you've seen them through social networks, through webinars. Get familiar and feel free to reach out to these folks. Stephanie Maddox and Ananya Jha are responsible for our IDE's experiences. So that's our VS Code extensions and our Code Builder, new web-based IDE experience. Daniel Ballinger owns Apex, our Apex language, and everything that goes with that. John Bello owns our Code Analyzer, our static code analysis tool. He's also working on packaging 1GP to 2GP migration and our app analytics for ISVs. And then for our CLI and DevOps Center, we've got Pooja Redivari on our CLI and Gilson Canario, who is now owning DevOps Center. So that's the team. Hope you can get to kind of work with them and meet them in the future. Then I'm going to hand it over to Neha.
Thank you. Thanks, Karen. So there's a whole suite of products that Karen just introduced and talked about. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how the metadata API and the platform plays the role in being the foundation to deliver these products to you for a smooth ALM experience. So you have, on the top of the vertical there, you have all your ALM flows and processes, change management, release management, the apps that you guys develop using the features that we provide on top of the platform. And then right below that is our in-house clients that Karen talked about, the DevOps Center and the CLI. And they are supported by these exposure channels, source tracking, packaging, change sets, tooling API, Apex metadata API. So what I mean by these channels are that these provide certain functionalities for you all to develop your own custom processes and your own custom ALM flows. For example, source tracking allows you to detect changes in metadata in your org, between your org and your local environment. Packaging allows you to create, install, upgrade packages. Change sets allows you to migrate metadata and such. But what's common between all of these is they are built on top of the metadata API. So the API serves as the backbone for all of these features, and these features under the hood are actually using the deploy and retrieve services of the API. And underneath this metadata API is the internal server-side model, which is called the metadata platform. So my teams are focused on developing this metadata platform and the API and its related services. Within this platform, we also provide mechanisms for internal teams to expose their entities and their features in the API as metadata types. So these are the metadata types that you guys interact with and use to customize your applications. So all of this to say that if you see a gap, if you're unable to migrate something, a feature or an entity between orgs, or if you see any issue with them, there's a likelihood that that feature is either incorrectly exposed in the API or just missing from the API. So if you see a gap like that, let us know, give us feedback, or let the feature team know. Just reach out to us, say something. And talking about feedback, how do you get that to us? So one end of the spectrum is all of you, our customers, partners, and the other end of the spectrum is Salesforce. You have certain channels available for you to provide this feedback or to communicate with us. There's Idea Exchange, there's Trailblazer communities, both of which are crowdsourced. You can go vote others' ideas, or you can directly post an idea on the communities, either privately or publicly for others to see. Then there are events like these today, and then there's True to the Core session in Dreamforce that you can attend. It's more like a forum. It's engaging, open discussions. There's social media, though not all of it is official Salesforce supported, but there's always that to give us feedback. But there's something else as well. So there are these public roadmaps available now, which are real-time, live, interactive roadmaps that are shared with all of you. You can provide your live feedback there for product managers to view it from their end and maybe prioritize it, and you can see if it's being prioritized real-time. We'll see an example of that very soon. And lastly, you have cases, investigations that you can raise to get dedicated support from Salesforce and get our attention to some issues that you're seeing. And the lesser known VOC, or voice of customer, which is a great way for you guys to directly raise feature requests and get them routed to the correct feature teams within Salesforce. So for voice of customers, reach out to your account manager or account executive. Towards the end of the session, we'll share a form with you, and you can use that to share what feedback mechanism works best for you so we can continue to improve it. That's an example of a public-facing roadmap.
Take it. So we just wanted to share, we have a few of our products. We're working to do this more and more, but we started to roll out these public roadmaps. You can take a shot here of these QR codes. We are showing here one for DevOps Center and our CLI. We're using GitHub to actually house this roadmap. It is a living document. We are keeping it up to date. The other really cool part of it is that we are using it to collect feedback from you. So you can get in there, you can see what we've got coming, and you can provide feedback through like a thumb up, thumb down, voting, as well as comments. You can comment, tell us what you think about these features, tell us more about your use case, tell us more about what you need, suggest your own ideas. So this has gotten pretty good reviews. I think people are finding it useful. I just want to encourage everybody to take a look and give us your feedback.
All right, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the release, like the planning and release process at Salesforce. So for our core products, we follow we have major releases 3 times in 1 calendar year, so roughly once every 4 months. However, that is not how long it takes to deliver products to you. Our actual release cycle from planning, development to major releases is 9 months long for each release. So today, as we start rolling out Winter 24, currently in August, we are already developing Spring 24 release, and we are about to start planning for Summer 24 release in the next month. All of this while we are still rolling out patches for Summer 23. So today, if you give us a feedback, it's going to be incorporated in our planning process, but you will only see it earliest in the next 2 releases or 9 months from today. So give feedback, say something, and basically we'll work towards incorporating it and getting it out to you in our future releases.
And that was an example of what our release schedule looks like for our core releases within Salesforce, which is the majority of the products you get when you get your winter or summer releases. What I want to say is, what we're trying to tell all of you as you're doing development is do as we say, not as we do. What we're doing is not what we're actually telling you to do, which is to release more continuously, to release faster, to release smaller bits more regularly at a higher cadence. So we are, in fact, working at Salesforce to get more into that model ourselves. We do acknowledge that that's best. We are able to do that today with some of our off-core products. So while we have our core products, which follow the release schedule that Neha just showed, we've also got some of these products that are built off-core. Some of these are built on top of the platform, just like applications that you're building. So our CLI, for instance, releases weekly. You'll get updates to that weekly. Our VS Code extensions similarly release weekly. They have a planning process that happens every 8 weeks. So they kind of do a major planning, and then they go into a sort of weekly release cadence. And then DevOps Center right now is sort of in this release as needed kind of schedule. We are trying to get more into a regular cadence with that, but we do want to be releasing more frequently than 3 times a year. So right now we're trying to do at least quarterly. We've been putting out some small patches along the way, and we're already looking to get to a more regular cadence. In the survey, we're sort of curious what your thoughts are as far as release cadences on products that you're getting from us. Just might help us as we're thinking about how to set up our schedules. And that's it.
All right. That's
all right.
all we
So
have.
that's sort of the tee up. And now what we'd like to do is open it up for any questions, feedback you've got for us. Yeah, come on up, grab a mic. I don't know if we've got a mic runner or
I can go down there.
I guess come on up.
I'm just curious, if you're moving to more of a continuous release, how are you managing the change management downstream for the people that will be consuming everything? Is the roadmap transparency meant to solve that? Are you all planning on doing something else? I know that some of the big quarterly releases, that was one of the benefits, was sort of the change management. So I'm curious.
Yeah. So I don't think the change management is changed too much. Like we still will be we still communicate what we're delivering, regardless of how frequently we're delivering. So we still have release notes. We still are, guiding through those roadmaps what's coming. We still have sort of the same internal processes around development and testing and making sure that we've got a good CI process internally and that we're making sure everything is tested before it goes out. So we're following those same processes. I think what we struggle with on the whole across the core platform is just the size of that platform and the complexity of it, and that it's been around for many, many, many years. And so the ability to kind of break that down and move more quickly can be difficult. But yeah, does that help? Cool. But I think one of the questions we have is like, we understand that customers sort of, you plan some of your releases, you plan some of your activities around our release schedule. So when we're doing things at different cadences, does that disrupt that? What are you missing when we are releasing at different cadences that would help your internal processes and things like that? Any other questions? Yeah.
So how does like DevOps Center work with like repositories like GitHub? And also the second part is that can it also be integrated with Azure DevOps or other repositories?
So right now we launched DevOps Center with GitHub Cloud integration. We are working on adding other source control providers right now. So it's the #1 blocker that we have for adoption of DevOps Center. If you're not using GitHub today, you can't use it. That's the fact of the matter. So top of our roadmap, actually, if you go to that roadmap, you'll see when we have them scheduled. Bitbucket is the one that we're working on right now. That'll be coming next. And then we're looking at Azure and GitLab. Kind of up in the air which one comes first next, so go vote if you have a preference on that roadmap. Also enterprise level, GitHub, enterprise level across all of them is also on the roadmap to come, probably first half of next year. Yeah, companies not approved to use GitHub yet. This is very common.
If you could get like Azure DevOps, like it's a huge win for us because we're using like GareSet right now and it's kind of like very expensive.
Yep.
Having a native tool like this, it saves us a lot
Totally
of money.
get it. We're not expecting everybody to move to GitHub. Like we understand that's not realistic. We started with that because it was the most popular one. We are literally going down as far as by numbers, like where we have the biggest number of users and hearing the most from our customers. So I would say Azure, like over the last 2 years, has been gaining steam as far as usage that we're hearing about. So good to hear.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
My question is, where are these release notes for your CLI and VS Code weekly releases?
Where are they available?
Yeah.
So the CLI, I believe right now, so they are posted on the web. I'm pretty sure on both of these. And the CLI also has the ability to get it in via a command. So I can follow up with you after this to show you exactly, and we can make sure. So I'm assuming that you've looked and you have not found.
We have not been able to find it between admins and developers, and so we're kind of knowing that you do this weekly is helpful because we're kind of surprised every week things change or we're just not prepared. So it'd be super helpful to know where that is.
Good feedback.
Yeah.
So we should be posting. As far as I know, we're posting them. I will find out where they are for you.
Okay.
And if they're not there, I'll make sure that they get there. So, yeah.
Anybody else? Okay.
Just want to say thanks for coming out here and supporting Mile High Dreamin'. I don't actually have a question. Really appreciate the unified CLI, the new SF CLI, versus the SFDX CLI. Been following the DevOps Center since Alpha Pilot 3 years ago. Great work, great job. We're Azure DevOps also, so I can't use it right now, but have other questions, but we're gonna get going.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi, really excited about this. We're also Azure DevOps, so we'd love to get there. We're on Capado, and one of our pain points is we, have multiple developers working on a flow, then we got to merge the flow. And the XML of the flow is very difficult to read. Is there any future dream of something that's both kind of, low code, but then when you're merging it, you could still, make it more readable for the DevOps people having to merge it?
The couple things that I'm aware of, so the flow is not my area, but I know what you're saying, which is that having a more abstract view of what that flow does would be useful. In the past, we've talked about having some sort of abstract layer on top of it to visualize it a little bit more cleanly. I think another direction that we'll be looking at is with Gen AI. I think that's a natural sort of use of it to, in general, when we look at code, to provide explanations and explanatory text. So I can't speak exactly what the plans are, but I would not be shocked if that's a direction.
Anything else?
Another one.
My last question is, how does DevOps Center handle destructive changes?
So it does handle destructive changes. When something is removed, it shows up when you do a pull changes. It shows up as a remove or a delete. That gets checked into the source control repository as essentially a remove of that component, and then when it gets deployed, we create a destructive changes XML file that gets deployed with it. So it does use destructive changes capability of the metadata API to remove it from the downstream environments. Cool.
Okay, anybody else?
How many of you here use DevOps Center? I'm just curious. Almost. Almost. How many of you want to use it but can't because of source control? Yeah, okay. Okay, cool. How many of you use the CLI? Cool. How many of you are using the new SF CLI? How many of you are using the CLI and not using SF yet? Okay, both? You're using both? Yeah, so you're having to continue to use SFDX for some stuff, but okay. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.